Hello, business owners and my fellow citizens. How are you doing? This is Daryl Guberman, quality professional for going over 40 plus years now. Business owners, this video is very critical to you, to me, to everyone, since we've lived through 2 years of hell brought on by the COVID-19 virus. This video today, and I apologize for the length of it, but you have to listen to this. It's very important. We have some special guests that I will introduce after I tell you the title. The title of this is Pfizer Cut Critical Corners, Quality Testing, Quality Standards, 40-year quality expert Daryl Guberman explains. And I shall explain. There's not one news media that has taken this on yet from the quality aspect. For after all, that vaccine was made in supposedly a quality arena, Pfizer and their labs. You also have Wuhan, China, suspect in the release of COVID-19. Yet also, if you look in the background of Wuhan, they were also not only looking at the viruses itself, all viruses that they work on, they also formulate the actual vaccine that will counteract that virus. So it's a double-edged sword there. You also have the factor of Charles Lieber at Harvard University, an expert in nanotechnology, both biological and electronic. The FBI sucked him up and arrested him right after the COVID started to spread into the United States. We have some special guests here. We have Miss Meg Terrell from CNBC. We also have Albert Bourla, the CEO from Pfizer, who for the second time have gotten COVID. Yes, he was the one who was the proponent about not taking COVID, that he was 59 years old and didn't really need it, but everybody else should take it. Family members, you don't want to lose it. I have the actual interview from Ms. Terrell and Albert Bourla. He has received it again. He's gotten COVID twice. I guess he got the injection, maybe not, who knows, but he got COVID twice. What is that? Oxymoronic, I would say, maybe. We also have Mr. Charles Lieber from Harvard University, a specialist in nanotechnology, both biological and electronic. Harvard in 2017, when asked by the National Institute of Health, which he's gotten a lot of money to do research on from them, and also the Department of Defense, we pulled this as well. This is his actual talent plan contract with China. 1,000 talent plan. What they do is China has a lot of money to burn, so they go to colleges and universities throughout the world and pick at those professors that can assist them with their scientific and aerospace and other avenues that they want to expand upon their worldly grasp. You have the factor that Mr. Lieber, and I will bring him out, received awards from the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering, the IEEE, and also NIH. I will show you this. NIH and the IEEE both sit on ANSI. At that time, it was called the Members and Management. We also have another gentleman here, Mr. Fauci. Yes, the NIH guy who said you got to take it and all the rest of this mess. You also have the factor that they, in 2019, in May of 2019, the CDC developed and designed a virology lab training program, not for any other place other than Wuhan, China. If you'd like a copy of it, I will gladly send it to you, 203-556-1493. Let us continue on. So you have Charles Lieber, the man from Harvard, and Harvard denied it in 2017 when the NIH asked if Professor Lieber, who was the head of the chemistry department at Harvard, was working with China. Harvard says, I don't know anything. Well, maybe that's because Harvard gets a $93 million, let's say, donation to Harvard, from China. And here we go. Once again, Harvard got $93 million, and that's not all of it. That's only last year's accountability. So $93 million Harvard receives. We're going to go through this. ANSI, the American National Standards Institute, it sounds like a government agency. It is not. It is a private, not-for-profit, non-governmental entity that has both federal agencies and corporations on board. We have a Mr. Joe Battia. who's the CEO of ANSI. He's been there a while. You have failures in aerospace. You have failures in laboratory, auto recalls, and also electronic, food safety, toy recall, medical, you name it, all under the banner of ANSI ANAB. Here we go. Randy Doherty was the vice president of ANAB, the chairman of the IAF at the time. He was also on the 990 tax form for the IAF as the principal. A principal has governing rules and regulations. They're basically the head of the IAF. But he handed over leadership of the IAF to this Chinese Communist national, Zhao Jinwu, who is also business owners and my fellow Americans. He is also the chief executive of the China National Accreditation Services in Beijing, China, which certified the suspect lab in Wuhan, China. He is also mandated by his country of origin, China, to take over and basically take your data through the China National Intelligence Law, Article number 7. You have ANSI and ANAB. ANSI took over complete control over ANAB in 2018, and you have, this is a sample of both government agencies and corporations that sit together harmoniously, working together. You'll see this. In 2015, Randy came out with an article in the IF International Accreditation Form, which is incorporated in Delaware. So the Communist Chinese National was in power between 2015 and 2021. If you read this, you'll find out that Randy complimented him because he's been involved with our quality since 1994, talking about cybersecurity. Randy wrote us a letter saying that, an IAF MLA, multilateral arrangement agreement organization in that country is equivalent to an accreditation from ANAB, okay? He further went on in the email to do this. He said that the IAF MLA works to facilitate global trade and vision of certified ones accepted everywhere. IAF MLA signatories are obligated to recognize certificates accredited by other IAF MLA signatories as equivalent. So a company with an ISO 9000 certification, that is, let's say the China National Accreditation Services, the IAF MLA signatory in China is equivalent to the ISO 9001 certificate accredited by ANAB. So ANAB takes responsibility over the China National Accreditation Services. They're basically the underwriter, I would say. We're going to get to that. ANSI ANAB have over 10 different organizations, registrars in China that can issue an ANAB accredited certificate. Talking about cybersecurity again, and our government is involved. You will find on government contracts, must be ANSI, ANAB, or IAF. And at the time when the Department of Defense had these contracts out, and I've got a couple of them, they stated it must be ANSI, ANAB, or IAF equivalent, not equivalent, but IAF. So what happens is the IAF was controlled by Communist China. Every federal organization that sits on ANSI has gotten their data taken. I will say this, business owners as well. Randy invited us to join either the IAF, ANAB, or both in 2016. 2016, he was the technical writer of ANAB, or technical advisor, and he was also the chairman, not the chairman, but he was also the treasurer and also the principal on the IAF Incorporated in Delaware tax firm, 990 tax firm, international accreditation form. So here you have Randy. Randy was also being advertised in the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security was advertising Randy at that time. Now we go to 2017, just a year later. And he was on there in 2016 as well. And what happened is he's on there being advertised as the vice president of ANAB. And this is the person to get in touch with for this particular certification that the DHS was offering. The DHS sits on ANSI, getting a bonus per se, a royalty payment, one of these gentlemen who are representative of quality standards. And ANSI has on each federal agency, a lot of them, have these one-person individuals that are handling the standard, quality standard. So they have their finger in everybody's pie. ANAB also, I told you they got taken over by ANSI in 2018. And ANAB and ANSI sit together on both boards. You have Zhao Jinwu. Here he is in 2017 in Wuhan, China, the suspect laboratory, handing them a laboratory certification. I think that's ISO 17025 for laboratory accreditation. We will get to laboratory accreditation pretty soon as well. You have ANAB. Now, this came right off a website. I even date stamped it to ensure that they were going to remove it after I exposed it, which they did. By the way, Randy Dodry also got removed from the Department of Homeland Security, especially when I said it's a private enterprise. That's like having Walmart being advertised on the Department of Homeland Security, or Google, or Amazon, or any private company because ANAB is a private company. ANAB is a private, not-for-profit organization. ANAB is an underwriter for the IF and ILAC. Now it's ANSI ANAB are underwriters. So they take responsibility for the release of the COVID virus. If this is true, and the Chinese National Accreditation Services is equivalent to accreditation to ANAB, then in essence, ANAB, ANSI take responsibility. This is what an underwriter is for those people who don't know. An underwriter is any party that evaluates and assumes another party's risk for a fee. This came right out, and this really gets a little bit scary in a sense, because we have Miss Pamela Sales here also in the wings that are going to come out. She's the Vice President of Laboratory Accreditation. We sent her a letter probably about 2 years ago, never responded. I wanted to know what she meant by variances from one laboratory to another. And if you can see their variances in labs in the United States, throughout the world, they're issuing certificates to compromised laboratories. Just imagine what happens to your blood test or urine test that gets sent to these laboratories. And this is what it says. A majority of forensic scandals have occurred in accredited labs. You have Miss Pamela Sales, who under deposition, and I'm going to read this section over here, that's the most important part. I know it's going to sound shocking when I say it, Sales said at the meeting, but there were no nonconformities with our auditing process. She went on to clarify that the auditing process could be improved. One of the issues, and this is what she said, one of the issues is that there is no commonly agreed upon set of standards that forensic labs around the country have to follow. Instead, there are informal guidelines that labs can choose to follow or not, which means it's all up in the air. You flip a coin and heads or tails. This came right out of a book, out of a paper that was written by a lawyer in New York, and this is what it said: that a laboratory certificate is no more than a seal of approval. We continue on, business owners, because I'm sorry about the length of this. The FDA sits on ANSI's board, along with them sitting on ANAB's board. Okay, they did sit on ANAB's board at one time. In fact, here's a little brief note that FDA sits on ANSI, member of management board. They also sit on ANAB's board, approved ANAB to perform third-party certification, and here it is. You can stop the video and you can read it, or else I'll gladly send it to you, 203-556-1493, and I will gladly send it to you. You have the CDC and NIH sitting on board of ANSI. On top of it, who's sitting there as well? Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson. They're sitting on ANSI. Pfizer pressured the FDA, we have that article, to push the EU emergency authorization for the COVID vaccine. You see how they're sitting together. Who sits there too? The FBI. You have the USDA. We pulled some fascinating articles here concerning COVID, concerning these issues. And you have Interdisciplinary Research of Virology and Nanobiology, 2014, and that is from Wuhan, China. You have the role of nanotechnology in the treatment of viral infections. Because what these laboratories do is not only, as I said, not only study the virus, but they also make the serum, the elixir to hopefully cure it with a vaccine. So they're looking at the virus and they're designing the vaccine in the laboratory. You have this one. This one's the most important one, about the There it is. Nano manipulation of single influenza virus using optical tweezers and dielectric force on microfluidic chip. And that's right up Charles Lieber's wheelhouse right there. You also have, of course, this. I'll gladly send it to you. This is the actual document for infectious diseases training at a virology lab, May 2019. And this is very important. If you look through it, you'll find that there are some universities that sit on ANSI who went over to train the laboratory technicians there. So we have, as I said, business owners, we have Miss Terrell and also Albert Bourla in the wings. And I'm going to be playing you their interview. And I want you to please listen to this because this is the high point of this video. And here it is.
I want to ask you also about a very important issue of vaccine hesitancy. Even folks who get most of their vaccines normally might be hesitant about these vaccines because they're
Listen
developed
specifically
so
what he says. He backpedals.
Those folks who might be saying, "Well, I'm going to wait a few months."
This is no CEO. He should be thrown out.
I will tell them I wish that the situation was not so critical so that they can have the luxury to think about it. But the situation is as deadly as it could be right now with the amounts of deaths or new cases that we are facing. So they need to think it twice. This is a vaccine that was developed without cutting corners from a company with 171 years of credentials. This is a vaccine that was developed in the spotlight and the daylight with all the data being put in servers. This is a vaccine that has been approved in the US by two separate governmental agencies, CDC and FDA, after listening to separate independent
right over by Pfizer.
One is the FDA and the other is the ACIP for the CDC. And this is a vaccine that is getting approved by all authorities in the world. So that should say something to them. And I repeat once more, the decision not to vaccinate will not affect only your health or your life.
Listen to this.
Unfortunately, it will affect the lives of others and likely the lives of the people you love the most, which are the people that usually you are in contact with. So I think trust science.
Well, and a question for you. I've heard you have not yet had your shot. When do you plan to get it?
The sooner I can, I will. The only sensitivity here, Meg, is that I don't want to have an example that I'm cutting the line. That I am 59 years old, in good health. I'm not working in the front line. So my type is not recommended to get vaccination now. So that's one consideration. On the other hand, our company ran a lot of polls to see what will take people to believe it. And one of the highest ranking, even higher than if Joe Biden takes it, even higher than if the other presidents take it, it is if the CEO of the company takes it. So with that in mind, I'm trying to find a way that I will get vaccinated despite if it is not my time, just to demonstrate the confidence of the company. But we have made a decision that if we have to do that, we will not do it with our executives. So none of the executives or board members will cut the line. They will take it as their age and the occupation type is the time for them to take.
Not only was it vaccine hesitancy, if you listen to him, if you listen to Albert Bourla, it sounded like he was a little bit hesitant in giving the speech. And I'm going to also say this, business owners, I showed you that we were invited to join either ANSI, ANAB, IAF back in 2016. But how could we in good conscience, as a proud American, how could we join that organization when they had China leading the pack? When China, the communist Zhao Jinwu, who I showed you, who was in the Wuhan lab, was also sitting on the IAF at the time. Sitting on the IAF at the time is, and still is, Lockheed Martin. Okay, Lockheed Martin was sitting there. Cybersecurity issues, darn well told. Randy Doty sitting on DHS while his buddy Zhao Jinwu was sitting on the IAF. Isn't there cybersecurity issues? They have to be. They're buddies. The guy's been involved with quality Zhao Jinwu since 1994, excuse me. And then you have Albert Bourla, who said that if you don't do this vaccine, you're jeopardizing your family. Yet he didn't take it himself. He should have been the first one in line. Vaccine hesitancy. He was the one who was hesitant. Don't you think so? I'm sorry for the length of this video. Any more information, please do not hesitate to contact me, 203-556-1493 or Daryl, DARYLTQRS at yahoo.com or CEO-Guberman GPMC.com. You can reach me. It's better to call. I'll always pick up the phone. Again, 203-556-1493, and I look forward to hearing from you.